Hello, welcome to the training webinar for today. I'm Dale Franks, and today we're going to be talking about user assignment. Much of what we talk about at the first is going to be fairly basic stuff, which you'll probably already know, but as we go on today, it will get progressively more advanced as we continue. Before we begin, I do need to cover a couple of administrative notes about the webinar and its schedule in the immediate future. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can take a look at the upcoming schedule for the webinar. Next week, there will be no webinar. We are having an on-site company event. It is downtown here in San Diego, so I'll have to be leaving at about 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning to fight all the way through San Diego's rush hour traffic to be there on Thursday and Friday, so there will be no webinar next week. Week after that, however, we are going to be getting into an entirely new series of webinars. So there'll be 3 weeks of topics which we've never discussed before and which will start on the 31st of October. On the 31st of October, we're going to be talking about how to use the BPLogix documentation and the tech support system, the kind of things that go into tech support and the stuff that we're likely to be able to be helpful with you on an answer, and other stuff in tech support that we would direct to direct assistance. And we'll also talk about debug mode and some of the options that are available to you in debug mode to help sort of do your own troubleshooting on your system. On the 7th of November, we're going to do a form controls overview. We're going to go through each of the form controls that are available to you in the online form designer, as well as some of the form control tags. We're not going to go through all of them, but there is at least one that needs to be covered in some detail. And we're just going to give a brief overview of all the controls. Now, it's not going to be a lot of demonstration of stuff. We're just going to cover the controls and their purpose and when to use them and how to set them up. So it's going to be an overview of that. We're going to continue that sort of overview on the 14th of November as we talk about custom tasks. And we'll discuss all of the custom tasks that are available to you in the system and give you a brief explanation of when and how those custom tasks might be used, and also some custom tasks that you would maybe not use if you have the opportunity to use some other objects that are available to you in Process Director. And we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of that, especially in terms of the database custom tasks and the pluses and minuses of using them as opposed to, say, using a business value. Then on the 21st of November, charts. And finally, on the 28th of November, obviously it's the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, so there won't be a webinar on that Thursday. So over the next month or so, it looks like we're going to be missing 2 webinars. Well, it says a month because 24 October, 28 November. Clearly that is more than a month because that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks between the two. So a couple of long months stuck together like that, and you end up with 5-week months. But in any event, that is the direction that we're going to be heading over the next couple of months, and you may not want to miss the 3 new topics that we're going to cover throughout the remainder of October and the 1st of November. So with that said, we can now talk about user assignment. There are in general 2 types of users that may access a Process Director system. The first type of user will definitely access a Process Director system because those are authenticated users. That is to say, the users in this list, these are all authenticated users. They all have user accounts in Process Director, and they all essentially log into Process Director. Now, your particular setup may be a little bit different. You may authenticate your users through SAML, as I know many of you do. And the SAML login is just asserted in Process Director, and those SAML accounts log into Process Director indirectly through your SAML system. Similarly, some of you are using Windows SSO, and in that case, of course, your Windows login assertion also gets passed to Process Director, and you just are automatically logged in. You're not really automatically logged in either of those cases. What is happening is your login assertion from either Windows or your SAML IDP are transmitted to Process Director. Process Director accepts that SAML or Windows assertion and logs you in at that point into the system. Those of you who are on SAML will notice if you look at the user type for all of your users, so this middle column right here, you'll notice mine says built in. So all of the users on this system have to directly log into this Process Director system. None of them are set up through Active Directory or through a SAML system. None of them log in through Windows. These are all direct logins. And so this will be your built-in users, people who log in directly into the system using their username and password, and ultimately coming up in 6.1.300, their two-factor authentication, usually provided by a third-party application app or authentication app like Authy. Those are all built-in users. If you use a SAML system to provide your accounts and to provide your logins, the user type will be SAML, obviously if you're using Windows SSO, or if your users are sourced from Active Directory, even if they log in directly to Process Director, the authentication method doesn't matter in that case, but either Windows accounts where you log in via Windows SSO or via Active Directory where the accounts are provisioned via an Active Directory synchronization, the user type will show up here as Windows users. And those are the three main user types: built-in, Windows, and SAML. I believe the majority of you are using SAML, so the majority of your users, almost 100% of your users, will all be SAML users. The one exception to that, of course, would be on a production system, your system administrator users. You should have a normal user account, just like everyone else in your organization, with similar permissions for your day-to-day use of a production system. So if you're on a SAML system, since that's what most of you are on, we'll just pretend that everybody's on SAML. You'll log into your SAML system. It will transfer you to Process Director. And in Process Director, of course, you'll just act as a normal user. But if you are a system administrator on that system, you should have a built-in account that is a system administrator account that is strictly assigned to you. And anytime that you want to perform any sort of administrative action in Process Director, you need to manually log into Process Director to do that administrative action. Now, it is a little more complex to do that, so I am going to give you a little help with that. And we're going to scroll this down here so that we can see our URL bar here. Now, normally, if I was just to log in, and I suppose I should probably log out of this system. So let me go ahead and log out. So normally, if I were to log in, I would just go to, and in this case, I'll get rid of everything. I'll just go to training.bplogix.net. Now, I'm not logged in, and it's going to take me to this login page, which, as you can see, is login.aspx. That's important. If you are a system administrator and you have a built-in administrator account, which, again, you should, that is the bplogix official recommendation. The way your system is probably set up is that if you go to this login page, it is going to want to redirect you to your SAML login. That is exactly what you don't want to do. So you've got to skip that SAML redirection. So the actual URL that you would go to log in my case, would be training.bplogix.net/login.aspx. Then you'll need to put in a question mark and type in skip SAML equals 1. What this URL parameter will accomplish is it will void the SAML redirect to your SAML login. And it will, in fact, allow you to get directly to the login page of your Process Director system. So you do need to have the fully qualified URL that points you to the login.aspx page, and you do need to have the URL parameter skip SAML equal 1 or equals 1. But when you go there, it will stop the redirect. If you want to know how I log into your cloud systems as BPL support, this is exactly how I have to do it. I have an entire list, which I don't know if it will show up in Zoom. And I have a menu open that shows all the customer locations. And I have for any customer, your prod and your dev and stage systems, if you have all three. And I can go to those systems and I have that login set up as login.aspx skip SAML equals 1. And that takes me directly to your login page. It voids the redirect, and then I can log into your system as BPL support and perform all the BPL support actions on your system. So we're getting a little far afield from the overall topic of user assignment, but for those of you who are system administrators, that's how we would recommend you get into your system. So I just thought that since I was covering it, I might as well talk about the login setup that you need so that you can access your system properly. Well, now that I've logged out, I guess I better log back in. So I'll just log in as me here, and well, we'll turn our content list back on, and we'll go back over to, well, I don't need to show you the users anymore because that doesn't matter. But we do need to talk about the second type of user, and that is unauthenticated users. An unauthenticated user, of course, does not have any of this user information stored in the system. They have no identity. We don't know who they are. Unauthenticated users fall into two types of users, either anonymous users, which means we don't know anything about them, and they're not really unauthenticated, but they're not really anonymous users. They fall into this weird category that we just generally call unauthenticated. You can have non-Process Director users access your system. Indeed, you can have them participate in processes, as we'll discuss in a few minutes. Most of the time, users don't, or at least anonymous users, don't participate in processes, although they can, but I think the most common use for anonymous users or unauthenticated users is to have them initiate processes by submitting a form. And so what you can do on your form is you can give unauthenticated users access to that form, and they will access it as, well, basically anonymous users. So let's see, I've got a couple of things here that we can look at. Let's look at the, well, we've got documentation feedback. We've got the NPS survey. I've got a post-training survey. All of these surveys have a form, and the way that you fill out the survey or the documentation feedback, I guess documentation feedback is probably the most common. It's also the oldest by far of any of my anonymous setups. It is a form that appears at the bottom of every single documentation page. So when you go to bplogix.com or doc.bplogix.com, at the bottom of every page, there's this send feedback to BPLogix button where you can ask questions specifically about the documentation. And if you click that button, it does open up a form, which is a documentation feedback form. Now, as it happens, this form resides on the training server. And what you do is you fill out your email address, answer a question, give your feedback, and you submit the form. Real simple, feedback form that exists on every page in the documentation. But like I said, it exists on the training server, and it exists right here in this documentation feedback folder. And here is the form itself. We don't really care much about the form other than the form's permissions. Because we open up the permissions for the document feedback form, anonymous users have run and view children permission and modify children permission. I'm actually not sure I need to give them view children and view modify permissions. I think this form would work well enough with just run permissions, but this form has a URL that you can access, and the URL, obviously, if we want to look at it, is going to be right here on the properties page, and here is the URL for this form. Now, because this form is set to give anonymous users run permissions, no one has to identify themselves to access this form. So I can put a link to it via that button that we just saw on the bottom of every page in the documentation. Click on that button. That button invokes the link to this form, and the form will open. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care that you have no access to Process Director. Once that URL is invoked, Process Director checks and says, okay, well, somebody's asking to use this form. Don't know who it is. Can I show it to them? Yeah, sure you can, as long as you have permission set for anonymous users to be able to run that form. They can run the form, they can fill it out, they can submit it, and that would kick off a process. Now, that's very common to do. Somewhat less common is having those same unauthenticated users participate in a process, but we'll talk about that a little bit later because I have an example of how that is set up. But at this point, just to submit the form, now I don't know anything about you. You are an anonymous user. If you are participating in a process, you're technically not an anonymous user. You're technically just an authenticated user, because I've got to be able to contact you, which means I have to have an email address. So at least I have an email address to associate with you. It doesn't authenticate you in the system. It doesn't give you a user account, but at least I have some identity to which I can send notifications or even task assignments, assuming that I set up my task assignments properly for you to be able to participate in the process. But even if I have no email address for you, even if I know nothing about you, I can still give you access to at least submit a form simply by giving the form definition anonymous user access to at least run permission on the system. If I do that, then anybody can submit that form. So all of our feedback forms, or the NPS survey, or post-training surveys, or the customer forum feedback survey for quarterly customer forums, all of those are actually run from this training server, and all of them allow anonymous users to fill out those forms. All you have to have is the URL for that form, which we always provide you via link. And then you can come in as an anonymous user on my server, and you can submit any of those forms for any of those feedbacks. So the way that we deal with authenticated users obviously is much easier because we can positively identify them. We know who they are. We can track their usage of the system. We can assign tasks to them very transparently, and we know when they've done their tasks. We know when they're currently working on their tasks. We can track, and certainly in the audit logs, we can track everything that they do on the system. So authenticated users, we basically know everything about, and we know everything that they're doing on the system. Anonymous users, we don't. We know when an anonymous user submits a form. And we also know when an anonymous user completes a task. But other than that, our visibility and our ability to assign tasks and track tasks with unauthenticated users is much more limited than it is with authenticated users, over whom we have More or less absolute control over everything that they do ultimately as system administrators in Process Director. So with the understanding that there are these two types of users that we have to deal with when considering user assignment and how it works, we need to cover two things. One, how we initially assign tasks to them, and two, what happens on a task restart. Now, task restart is complex, so we're going to put that off to way back at the end of this webinar before we cover it. So we'll get a lot of much more basic material out of the way, and we'll kind of build on that to get us to this whole restart thing, which is moderately confusing. And so it does require a little thinky pain to wrap your mind about how restarts work. But those are the two types of task assignment that we have to worry about. So let's talk about task assignment itself and how it works. Now, whether it is a task restart or whether it is the initial assignment of a task, it doesn't really matter. Task assignment always works the same. Task assignment only takes place on activity start. So when an activity runs, so if this timeline were to run and we were to invoke activity 1, as soon as activity 1 is invoked, it is going to make all of the appropriate task assignments that are specified for this task. And once it does so, task assignment is done. So this task assignment will never recur unless the task restarts. Whether you administratively restart it or whatever, task assignment is not going to be redone automatically by the system. That means that if, and let's just open this up, and it's just a default task. I haven't done any configuration on it. So right now it's assigned to timeline initiator. So if this task were to start, then this task would be assigned to the timeline initiator, and that task would remain running until the timeline initiator completed that task. Task assignment has been done. No matter what I do from that point on, if I go in and change this to, users, and I pick Diana, well, that's great. The next time this task runs, Diana will be assigned the task, but all of those running tasks are still being assigned to whoever the timeline initiator was. So if I want Diana to be the assignee, even for any currently running tasks, I can't just go and change the process timeline. I'm going to have to go to all of those running timeline instances, and I'm going to have to manually restart those instances or those tasks so that task assignment will recur. Now, when that task assignment recurs, because I've restarted the task, now Diana will be assigned the task. Maybe. It all depends on what I've got set up over here. And so maybe Diana will be the task assignee, depending on what you've done here. But as I said, we'll talk about that later. In general, assuming you have the default settings set up in Process Director on your advanced option tabs and you haven't gone in and done anything special, when I restart this task, Diana Stewart will now be the new task assignee. And obviously, for any new tasks that are created, once I save my process timeline, Diana will be the assignee. That doesn't change anything that's happened in the past. So all of my currently running, unless I administratively go into each instance and restart them. So all of my currently running and all of my completed timeline instances will still have been all assigned to the timeline initiator as this was initially configured. It would be nice if I could go in, and I don't have any instances of this timeline since it's a brand new timeline, so I'm pretty sure it's never been run. Uh, so I don't have any instances. I probably could go in and find one, although it wouldn't do me any good because there's no method whereby I can look at all of the active timelines and magically restart the that activity one in all of them as some sort of group thing. And if I've made a change to the task assignment, just magically find the five timeline instances that are running in activity one and say restart all of these all at once and restart just this activity all at once. There's no easy way of doing that. I'm going to have to open up every single instance that is in activity one, and I am going to have to manually restart those instances. So there's no shortcut that will make that work for the running instances. I've just got to manually find every single one and restart it. And we have occasionally gotten tech support issues from people who say, I need to make a change. And I have 200 running instances. Do I have to open each instance individually and restart that task? Yes, you do. I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish there was some magic. Oh, you've made a change somewhere. Would you like us to update that change in the running timelines? And for you to be able to say, oh, yeah, sure, that would be great. Unfortunately, there is no such mechanism. So it is all a manually driven activity. By the way, you should be aware that that is exactly how start when conditions and needed when conditions are also evaluated. So it's not just your task assignment that gets evaluated once when the task begins. Your start when conditions are basically evaluated once when the activity begins. So are your needed when conditions. If subsequent to that task starting, so I'm now running in this activity as an active task, if a needed when condition now is suddenly met, it doesn't matter. That's already been evaluated. We're past that. When we started the activity, that needed when condition wasn't valid, or was valid, I guess, in this particular case. And because it was valid, we kicked off the activity. We're not going to magically skip the activity if, 3 days into performing this activity, that needed when condition is no longer valid. It's too late. Activity has started. Start when, same thing. If I have conditions, start when conditions, in addition to any dependencies that I might have, if that start when condition is met, that activity starts. And it will not stop or end or anything else if that condition changes while the activity is running. So it's important to remember that all of these conditional evaluations that occur, including task assignment, are all done immediately when the activity is, as soon as it's eligible to run. When it's eligible to run, we're going to do those checks. We're going to assign participants. Well, we're not even going to do it in that order. In fact, we're going to do it in the reverse order. First thing we're going to check is the needed when condition. Do I actually need to run this activity? Do I? Great. Then I have to, if I do, then the activity has to run. Now, let's check start when. Is it eligible to run? Okay, all the dependencies have been satisfied and this condition is valid. So yes, it is eligible to run. So I guess we're going to kick it off. Then the activity actually gets kicked off. And at that point, we check the participants to determine who is going to be assigned the user task that is associated with that activity. I generally try to use the term activity and not task, but we should be aware that for a user activity, a user task is generated. All activities that run in a timeline are considered activities. but they don't have tasks associated with them, right? A custom or a form actions activity. There's no user task. There's no user task really for a custom task activity or for a notification or for anything else. Only user activities have a task that gets created as a child of that activity. And that task obviously has a due date and notifications get sent for it and all of the other things that happen for that task. But the task itself is not the activity. The task is really a child object of the activity. The task is what gets assigned to the user. Now, in many ways, the user task or the user activity are, from the end user's perspective, indistinguishable from one another. Because if I complete my task by hitting a task completion button on the form, that completes the activity too. So the task and the activity are in many ways synonymous. However, the task and the activity for a user task, the task is a separate object from the activity. So a timeline may have many activities, and for all of those activities, only the user activities will have a task that gets associated with them. And by the way, you may notice that if you go into, and let's see if I can, let me just find a condition here, and let's just open up the condition builder. So you'll notice when you go into the condition builder that I have timeline activity system variables, but you'll notice I also have process system variables, and depending on where I am, I believe I also have process task system variables, but this is fine. I still have some task system variables here. I have the task start date and the task due date. If I go to the timeline activity, I also have an activity due date. Now, for a user activity, those two dates should be the same. There's an exception to that too, as we'll cover in a few minutes, but they should usually be the same. But I do have the process and I do have the process task. And in fact, let me go, rather than going here and trying to grab that condition, because the condition builder is dynamic and at different, in different contexts, you'll get some different conditions. So what I'd like to see, let me just go into a form and we'll just go straight into the properties of the form. And let me hit click to create condition. And let's see, I just don't remember where I get a process. Okay, well here, great. I've now got process and I've got the status and the start date. I've still got the task start date and the task due date, but I don't have a lot of tasks. I probably should have taken some time to go in and find some context in which I had more process task variables. I can try one more thing. Let me go to, I don't want to mess this up, but let me go into a knowledge view and let's try to find a filter condition for this knowledge view. And I got to be sure not to save this because this is a running knowledge view. Task. There we go. Now I've got a task system variable. So in the context of a knowledge view, finally, I've got both task and process. So as you can see, tasks have their own priority and their own due dates, their complete date, the users that are assigned to that task. I can get slightly different information from a task than I get from a timeline activity. Because remember, the timeline activity has to cover every possible thing that can happen in a timeline activity. And there are many more types of timeline activity than simply user activities. So the distinction between the task and the user activity, while largely transparent to you as an end user when you're participating in some sort of activity, they are not the same thing. And so from an administrative point of view, and certainly whenever you're creating some knowledge views and in some other context, task might be important. And we're more interested in the task information from an administrative viewpoint. Certainly when we're returning information, we may be more interested in the information associated with the task than we are with the information associated with a particular timeline activity. Just keep in mind, only user activities have tasks associated with them. So we can't address, there's no context in which a task piece of information is relevant to a notification or a form actions or a rollback activity, a branch activity. So just keep that in mind about how tasks work. All right, well, that's a lot of basics. So let's get back to just our task assignment itself. So the simplest and most common type of task assignment, the one that I'm going to assume that all of you know, so I don't need to spend a whole bunch of time looking at it, are the major assignment types. We can assign to users, groups, from a form field. Usually, when you're picking from a form field, I say usually, not always, but usually when you're picking from a form field, you have an email address and you're trying to assign a task to an anonymous user. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. You also have system variables, business rules, and of course, the standard, the default is always the timeline initiator, which is often useful, especially if I have an approval loop and I want to return things to the timeline initiator on a routine basis. It's always good to have that. So what are the best options for assignment? These are the official BP Logix recommendations. Primarily, you should assign to groups when you can. There are some drawbacks to group assignment. But in general, some of the drawbacks are actually advantages. So if I assign to a group, it's a convenient way of assigning because I can assign many different tasks in many different process timelines to a group. The nice thing about that is I manage that group membership all in one place. So if I assign, a task to a group, then all I have to do if I need to make a change to that group as a system administrator is just go into that group and open it up. I have no idea who's in this group. Obviously, nobody is in this group. So I just picked a group at random. Okay, so fine. Let's say that Barb was in this group. Okay, technically it's a group, but it's only assigned to one person. I could assign it to multiple people, and the same principle would apply, which is if I have to make any changes here, then all I've got to do is just, in this case, I'm just going to replace Barb with Diana. And I'm just going to go ahead and update that group, and ta-da, I'm done. So any timeline activity that assigns a task to that group, and in this case, that group is literally just Diana Stewart now. From now on, all of those activities will be assigned to Diana. Obviously, any running activities will have already been assigned to Barb, and if I have to change those, I got to do that administratively. But for the future, everything is assigned to Diana. So I might want to give this a different name than Dean. I think I have some, like File Clerk 1. Here's one. It can be more generic than File Clerk 1, but File Clerk 1 is Eric Wintemute. And if Eric leaves or gets replaced by somebody else, all I have to do is go into the group and change Eric Wintemute. So both the drawback and the advantage of managing by groups like this. And by the way, you can create as many groups as you want, even if you have, an Active Directory sync that is providing all of your Active Directory groups, you can create your own unique built-in groups in Process Director. They're not going to be affected by your Active Directory sync, and you could manage them manually and make whatever changes you need to make to them. But the advantage and disadvantage of this is that it requires system admin access, or at least IT admin access, to the user administration section of your Process Director installation. Now, if you are one of the customers that has, one or two people who are both system administrators, and so they both have godlike control over the system, if they're the ones who are also the ones responsible for creating all of your applications, then this is, in most cases, not every case, but in most cases, assigning by group is fine, because you can have the user or the group assigned to 1,000 different timeline activities, and anytime you want to change it, you just go into the groups and change it. On the other hand, this is a disadvantage if the system administrators and the people who are building the applications are not the same people, because you have several customers where the people who administer the system and the people who administer the system don't want to give the developers of applications access to IT admin, because unfortunately, I can't just give you access to groups. That would be great, but I can only give you access to user administration. Well, now hold on there, Sparky, because now I'm giving you access to all of my user accounts, all of my groups. Of course, I want to give you access to my groups. I'm also giving you access to all of the authentication settings in the system, all the delegation settings. You can look in and mess with user directory synchronization. I might not want to give you this level of access to the system. So if I have this difference between system administrators and citizen developers, I might not want to give those citizen developers this sort of access. So in that environment, it's a drawback. If your environment is that everybody who builds applications is also a system administrator, well, then you probably don't care. You already have access to all of this stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter. So groups then becomes a really great way for you to manage task assignment. What we're trying to get away from, just so that you know, is assignment directly to a user. That really is a burden on you as an administrator, because if you change that user, you've got a limited number of options for replacing them. If somebody leaves and they have a direct one-to-one replacement, then okay, you're probably fine, because you can go into user administration and you can open up that account. Let's say Barb has left the company and she's been replaced by Diana. I can go into her account, and that was the wrong one. This is the one I want, Diana. I can go down here to where it says replace this user with, we'll pick the user Diana. If I click replace user now, which I am not going to do, but if I were to do so, the system would do a universal replacement of Barb and replace her with Diana in all possible task assignments where Barb has an assignment. Okay, that's great. And it's easy, but it really only works in one specific scenario where I am doing a universal replacement of user A with user B. What if user A didn't leave the organization? What if they just got a slightly different job or a promotion, and now half of their tasks have to be reassigned, but they're going to keep the other half? Well, now I'm just going to have to go into every single activity that is set for Barb as the user, and I'm going to have to, in just those activities where she needs to be replaced. So let's say Barb is in, 50 different activity assignments, and I got to replace 25 of them. Well, I got to replace all 25 of them manually. So groups, better solution than users, certainly much easier to manage. Also, groups, not universally applicable, can't be used for everything. So if I am in a situation where I do not want my developers to have access to anything in IT admin, including user administration, which gives them access to the groups, then groups probably isn't a great choice for me unless I, as the administrator, don't mind going in and making those group assignment changes as necessary. If you don't mind that, then fine. You can keep assigning groups. You just have to know and be told at the appropriate time when those group assignments need to be changed. But it's up to you as one of the, one or two or however many system administrators are to make those changes. Your developers never have to worry about it, although they may have to tell you this task assignment is changing to a different person. Well, what if I want my citizen developers to be the ones who make these assignments? Well, you have another option. So the second recommended option and our second fallback option would be to do it via business rules. So if I toggle my system folders to turn them on so that we can see them, I've got a business rules folder, which has the square brackets, and it's in the root level of my partition. And if I navigate to that folder, I've got business rules that enable me to do task assignment either on a conditional basis, because there are some times where even if you are the system administrator and the application developer, groups still won't work. One of them is conditional assignment. I don't know who is going to be the assignment or who's going to be the user assignee for that task. I have to, in this particular case, I'm checking a parameter called state. So my form or my process timeline is going to pass a parameter, usually from a form field, like I have a state drop down and I select California or Arizona or Texas, whatever it may be. And based on the selection that I've made in the form, it's going to get a different task assignee. So I really have to use a business rule in that case because I can't really do, well, I could do conditional group assignment, but that just adds another layer that is unnecessary to invoke. So I can invoke a user directly from a business value rather than, I could do it, but rather than invoking a group, it's just as easy to open the business rule and invoke the group. Plus, because it's in the content list, my citizen developers can use business rules. They don't need access to IT admin to set up their business rules. So you can make global business rules like this one, which just accepts a parameter called state, which I think I have altered a little bit. Just if I pass a parameter, and of course I'd have to call this business rule via a system variable. And I believe I have an example of that we can look at in a little bit. But if I call this business rule via system variable, then I pass it the state parameter. So if it's California, then this business rule returns me as the task assignee. At the same time, I have some other business rules here. I have this business rule. It's called VP of Operations, and it just returns Barb Stanley. And so obviously, if Barb Stanley is no longer the VP of Operations, I would just come in here and I would change the name. Meanwhile, in all of my processes that I have assigned, what I've done is I have assigned via business rule. And of course, I have to go in and check that business rule and find it. So in this case, it is, I don't remember. That's VP approver. I don't remember where it's, what the Is it global? Please be global. It is global. VP operations. So there's my VP operations business rule. So I can have, again, 100 tasks that are assigned to VP operations. And if the VP operation changes, because it's assigned via a business rule, I don't have to be a system administrator to be able to go in and go to that business rule and make that task assignment change. I can just go in here, assuming, of course, that I have permission to actually get into this folder. I can go in and I can change Barb Stanley to Diana Stewart or whoever I'd like to change her to, so that it just updates the business rule. So primarily, the best way, and certainly the easiest way to manage task assignment overall, is to assign via group. And failing that, the fallback is to assign via business rule. And you could make a whole bunch of business rules in here and give your developers access to it so that, for their particular applications, they can go in and change the business rule, and they don't have to have any administrative access to do it. So it largely depends on how your system is set up, how much administration you as a system administrator wants to do in terms of uploading and updating groups. But both of those options are better options than assigning via user. Assigning via user should probably be your last resort in terms of task assignment and how you want task assignment to work. Not because there's anything wrong with it or because it doesn't work or it's improper in any way. It's just that, especially for a large system with a lot of users, and over time, if you build up a lot of processes, it's just going to take up some extra management time because, nobody stays in any organization forever. I mean, even if they stay there for 50 years, ultimately somebody's going to retire and you're going to have to go back in on a regular basis. And you're going to have to constantly be making changes to these user assignments and all of these individual process timelines. And look, it gets to be a pain. Nobody's saying you can't do it. And if you want to manage your system that way, nobody's going to stop you, but you should be aware that it's going to add some additional burden to you. Next, let's talk about assignment from form field. Now, I have a lot of this stuff pre-built, and it's a good thing we do because we're almost an hour into this and we haven't really looked at that. But let's look at anonymous user. And here's my anonymous user assignment via email. We'll just look at the forms design. Now, in this case, it's pretty simple. I just have a text box. And this text box, well, not even named well, really. It's still input 1. However, this will take an email. Now, I can assign directly to a user from a form field. Now, this is for an anonymous user. Now, I can also do this for a regular authenticated user. I can still assign via email. And in fact, sometimes you want to. One of the things... Let's finish anonymous user first. Then I have another one that I've created that does it for an authenticated user. It's slightly different because the anonymous user requires a little more configuration. But let's just go with anonymous user for now. So I've got an anonymous user. I've got this field. This field is going to store their email address. So far, so good. So in my process timeline, we're going to activity 1. It is set from form field. And of course, I have my badly named input 1 form field. That is the user to which this is going to be assigned. Now, this field is just going to be an email address. It's not any real user. It's just an email address because the user is unauthenticated. All right, so I have to make this work by going into advanced options. And in advanced options, there's this checkbox right here. Allow anonymous users to be assigned tasks by email address. This has to be checked, or the anonymous assignment via email simply won't work. So anytime that you are wanting to assign a task to an anonymous user, you need their email address, and then you need to check this particular checkbox. From the anonymous user's perspective, everything is going to be fine. I'm going to assume that this works unless I have inadvertently changed something, which I don't think I have. But we're just going to run this, and well, now the form has to compile. While that is happening, I just want to look back and be sure that I have notifications turned on for this. I do. Good. That's super important because I need to receive the email, and indeed, I better open up Outlook so that I can get that. So here's my, I'm sending that to Gmail. I have not looked at what I have in my Gmail inbox, and I'm not going to open my Gmail inbox up where you can see it. So let me submit this. And I guess I can close Outlook now since it's not going to come to my Outlook address. I'm going to open up a new tab, and I am going to move this tab to a completely different screen because I have no idea what kind of horrific spam I might have in my Gmail. In fact, I'm going to go to a completely different browser because I use Edge for work, and it's the only thing I use it for. So I'm going to open up a completely different browser because that's what I have all my personal stuff on. And I'm going to go to Gmail, and there it's open. And we are going to, now I do not see my, okay, I don't see that email in here. I see a lot of other stuff, but I don't see that email. I should have received an email notification via Gmail. I'm pretty sure that this worked the last time I ran it, but it's not working now. We may have to do a little troubleshooting. Let me run this, and this time, let me actually send it over to BP Logix. And submit that. Okay, so it looks like it's fine. Let's look at our active timelines. Okay, so that's assigned to Dale.Franks at BP or Logix, and presumably this first one is assigned to Gmail. You know what I didn't do? I didn't check spam. Hold on. I did not check spam. Well, I don't see it in Gmail, which is super unusual. That's where I expected it to be. So let's take one more quick look at my process director email. Okay, well, for whatever reason, it popped up in process director, even though it didn't pop up in, there we go. That's what we're looking for. That email right there. So at least I got to my process director email, even though it didn't get to Gmail. So here's the email sent to Dale.Franks at bplogix.com. And then it says, click here to perform this task. Now, if I do this, it's going to just bring me in as me because I'm already logged in. So that's why I wanted to do it in a separate browser, but for whatever reason, it didn't come into Gmail. Don't know why. I know that Google has been doing some clamping down on who can send email to Google. and I may have been caught up in that. In any event, it's unimportant. The important thing is this link right here. This is a special link. And it is a link that only goes to anonymous email participants. So now that I have the link and it's in my email inbox, I can click on that link as an anonymous user and perform my task. Now, of course, if I click on this link, it will basically log me in as a real user. Or does it? Does it know that I'm an anonymous user? Not entirely sure, but this is a special link that allows me to complete my task as an anonymous user. I'm already logged in, so I know it works, but I'm going to complete my task. So far, so good. There's only one thing that we have to remember, and it says the form has been submitted. Click here to navigate home. All right, great. So there's only one thing that we have to remember about this, and that is that this email, which, did I close it? No, I didn't. It's just hidden. So this email is all cool and stuff, and this link is all cool, and it allows me to perform a task anonymously. And by the way, I should point out this form, I meant to show you that sooner, but I didn't. But anonymous users don't have access to this form. I could not, as an anonymous user, submit this form. There's no permissions for that. What gives me permission to complete that task is that it sent me a special task link that when I click it, will put me as this anonymous user, not even as this anonymous user, as the clicker of this link. And by the way, it doesn't matter who the clicker of this link is. If I was to forward this email to a third party, they would have the link as well, and they could be the clicker of the link. Remember, this is an unauthenticated account. I can send a link to an email address, but the one thing that we cannot guarantee is that the link clicker is the person who is supposed to be the link clicker. Like I said, if I forward this email to someone else and they click the link, then they're the link clicker. Process Director can't validate or verify or authenticate who the link clicker is. Whoever clicks the link is the link clicker, and they get to complete the task. So it ain't super secure in terms of being able to identify a specific user. It can't be, because you're basically sending it to an unauthenticated user whose identity you can never verify. So some caution in exercising this option for anonymous user participation may be warranted. But once I click this link, it opens my form. My task is done. In this case, I should be able to look in completed timelines, and that timeline has been completed. I should probably, well, that's not what I wanted to do. Well, that's the form. I didn't want to do that. Boy, I'm all discombobulated now. Let's look at the properties for this timeline instance. So there we go. That's what we're looking for. Dale.franks@bplogix.com completed the task with the result of complete. And so it worked just fine. Anonymous task assignment can be done. Just got to remember, you don't know who the link clicker is. So when you send that email out, you really have lost control over who is actually going to go in and complete that task. I think in most cases, we can assume that the person who receives the email will be the task link clicker, but maybe not. That possibility always exists. So back to our original timeline and back to participants. System variable. System variable is cool. I didn't show you that was anonymous task assignment. Sorry about that. Let me go here. And let's take a look at this form. So on this form, and this is a sample project that gets used in the current core, intermediate, and advanced training. And so right down here, I have, wait, didn't I have, here I have a user picker control for department representative, dean's office representative, and for new faculty advisor. And on my process timeline, I use these to determine who is going to be the task assignee for the appropriate task. So if we open up our task and we look at, say, dean's office approval, no, that one's at users. There we go. New department advisor assignment. It's from form field. Now, the form field is not set out here because this is the user's version of it. This is not the completed activity. So a user would actually have to go in here and do this, but it would be, I believe, faculty advisor, which is the user picker form. And so this from form field will now just automatically assign to whatever user gets returned from the faculty advisor form field. So in this case, the faculty advisor is an authenticated user. I know who they are. I have complete control over their identity. So in this case, to assign a task to an authenticated user, I wouldn't use a text box or a checkbox or a drop down or anything like that. What I would use is the user picker. That's the specific point of the user picker, is to be able to return the faculty advisor here. I guess I should have picked a new faculty advisor instead of faculty advisor. Sorry about that. This was faculty advisor, which also, by the way, is being assigned. So both the faculty advisor, whoever the current one is, whenever this request is put in, a task goes to the faculty advisor to review, and it goes based on this user picker control. And then when a new faculty advisor is chosen by the dean's office, then or by the registrar rather, then that new faculty advisor will receive their task that says they've been assigned a new student as their new faculty advisor. So, okay, great. All I need is a user picker control, and then I can assign via form field all day long. So assigning via form field is real convenient because I can use it for both existing users. So in this particular case, I don't know, like when a student is filling this out, right? A student is just technically just goes in and says, I want to change my major, or I want to declare my initial major, or whatever it may be. Okay, the student logs in. I don't necessarily know who their faculty advisor is. I mean, it could be one of, 5, 6, 7 professors in their department, and I might not know who it is for each specific student. So the student will just pick their faculty advisor. And when they submit their change of major request, the first thing that's going to happen is their faculty advisor, chosen via a user picker control, will be assigned a task, and that faculty advisor will then do whatever is necessary to counsel the student about that change of major request that they put in there, and they'll be assigned a task. So the assignment via form field is often very useful. The most common use of assignment via form field is, in fact, a scenario like this, where I don't necessarily know who is supposed to be assigned a task. I need to have the user make a selection from among my authenticated user about who should perform the task. Sometimes I do know, based on the setup of the user accounts, like sometimes I do know who the supervisor is, right? So I can always derive that, which I'll show you how to do next. But oftentimes I don't know, or because of the type of request it is, I don't necessarily know who is supposed to handle it, but the person who is submitting the request does. So it's quite common to use assignment via form field in this way so that the user just selects who gets assigned a task. Far less common is the anonymous assignment, but both of them are done via assignment via form field. So, well, let me just make everything small again. Now let's go back to our training webinar and back to our task. System variable. Now, like I said just a second ago, there's some things that we may know about the user. And so we can assign things via system variable. I think probably the most common, by the way, do I have a pre-built one here so that I don't have to manually configure it? I don't think I do. No, sorry, I don't. So I guess I will have to sort of manually configure it. So let's say I have a timeline initiator. They have submitted this process timeline. Now, assuming that inside the settings of their user administration, so this will work for me because I have it set up. Let's say that I submit a task. Well, down here in the additional properties of my user account, Diana Stewart shows up here as my manager. So I know who my manager is based on the settings that are available inside my user profile in Process Director. Often this is imported via Active Directory, and you can certainly set this via Active Directory as part of your Active Directory synchronization. Presumably you could do it via SAML as well. And once I have this information, well, I can assign the first task. Since I know who the timeline initiator is, I can assign the first task via system variable. Because the system variable I need, in this case, the easiest one would be timeline initiator. Oh, all right. Timeline underscore initiator show manager equals 1. So what show manager equals 1 does, it doesn't have to be capitalized, show manager equals 1. What that does is instead of returning me, the timeline initiator, it returns the supervisor of the timeline initiator. Now I do need to format this. Format equals UID, because what I need to return is the user UID for the user so that it gets assigned as a user. By default, what this will return is my name, or with show manager equals 1, it will return my supervisor's name, Diana Stewart, as text, which is not going to be super useful. I need to be able to specify a user. So I need to set the formatter here to equals UID. That will return the manager's GUID in the system. And then Process Director will be able to identify that manager, extract that manager's user account, and then be able to, in this case, send an email to them, make a task assignment to them, and all the other stuff that needs to be done. So what this system variable allows me to set up is a system that no matter who my supervisor is, that when I submit a request, whoever the timeline initiator supervisor is, they'll be assigned this task initially. Now, obviously, you have to have that manager configured in their user account or none of this will work, but you can certainly set things up via via system variable. Okay, that is everything, but there is one thing I want you to notice. No matter how you have it set up, it could be groups, it could be users, system variables, or whatever, there's this little thing over here called subtask name. Depending on how you have things set up, I might assign a task to multiple users, and each of those users might do a slightly different task. In fact, each of those users might not even all be working on this task at the same time, as we'll discuss in a few minutes. Now, the thing about subtasks is I can give different due dates to different users based on the subtask. And so if I need to track the subtask for each of the individual users, I can do that. But it does take a little bit of a setup to make it work. So let's look at subtask due dates. First of all, we'll look at my form. Now, on my form, I have 3 separate form fields here. And these 3 separate form fields, I should probably select one so that we can see, provide the names for my subtasks. This is really all they do. All this form does is subtask due date assignment. So I've got subtask 1 name, subtask 2 name, and subtask 3 name. Ignore this. This is just to show the results of a business rule, although that is an important business rule that we'll have to we'll look at in a second. All right, great. Well, I've got my 3 subtask names. Generally, we have to name subtasks in the form. Now, these are form fields that I can simply fill out and run on the form. It's just to do it manually. And by the way, all these examples are available to you. Email me. I'll zip this whole thing up and I'll send you all these examples. So what this allows me to do is just to open this form, name my 3 subtasks, and submit the form. The important thing is how this is going to work in the process timeline, because in my activity, I have assigned 3 different users, and I specifically did it for users because I live in a test environment, and these users are never going to change. So I have a task assigned to Barb and Diana and Rick. And Barb is going to do subtask 1 because the name of the subtask is going to be assigned from the form. Same with subtask 2 and subtask 3. These are all form fields. So now I have 3 subtasks. So 3 different people are doing 3 different things, each of which have their own subtask name. Now, what I want to do is I want to have different due dates for each of these subtasks. Some of these things simply may take longer than others. And so I want to have different due dates for the subtasks. In fact, depending on how, right now we're assuming that all of these tasks, because that's the default way that Process Director is set up, is that all of these tasks all get assigned all at the same time and they all run concurrently. That may be true, may not be true. Because what I may have done is change this to all in series, in which case these tasks are all going to happen one at a time. Subtask 1, subtask 2 is not going to start until subtask 1 is complete. Similarly, subtask 3 won't start until subtask 2 is complete. Now, I have them all in parallel, and for this particular example, it doesn't matter whether we're using parallel or serial assignment. Thing is, I want to have 3 different due dates. So on the due date tab, I've got to set my due date from a system variable. And what I've done is I've created a business rule, and I'm going to use a system variable to return the result of that business rule. The business rule itself is basically associated directly with the process timeline. So it's part of the process timeline. It's directly associated with it. And the reason that it's associated with it is because I need to be able to set my due dates based on the number of days from when the form was submitted. So I'm going to need, because I have 3 subtasks, I'm going to need 3 separate due dates. And I'm going to base the subtasks on the subtask name. Now, in the form, I just actually named them subtask. When I create the form, I just name them subtask 1, subtask 2, subtask 3. I have to, because if I don't, none of this will work. I may or may, I don't remember, I may or may not have set those values to populate automatically. But this business rule is going to run. And it's going to check every time it runs, it's going to check with the process timeline. And it's going to say, okay, what subtask are we running? What is the current subtask name? And if it is subtask 1, then it is going to return a due date that is 3 days after the form submit date. If it is subtask 2, the due date will be set to 5 days. If it is subtask 3, the due date will be set to 8 days after the form submit date. And so with this business rule, and then basically querying that business rule from the due date tab of this activity, as I've done right there, the due date is going to be different depending on what subtask is running. So as my 3 different people are working on their particular activity, in the context of their identity, the subtask due date is always going to be different. And so we can assign those subtasks, and then we can, using a business rule, the way I've got it set up, we can run those subtasks through the due date tab via that business rule, and I can just assign different due dates. So as I said, I don't remember on the form whether I actually set a default value for these. I did. I thought I probably did. So this is where the names are coming from. So basically, running the form just sets the value of my subtask name. So it's a real simple example of how subtasks work and how I can set different due dates using subtasks, which, by the way, is a new thing. Prior to a year ago, that wasn't in the product. I think we stuck that in the product in October. Although for most of you, you didn't see it until you got version 6.0. Prior to this, I could not run separate subtask due dates. All the subtasks had the same due date. With the ability to set separate subtask due dates now, each of these subtasks that I have in my process timeline are essentially separate tasks, each of which have their own due dates now. And now would be a good time to talk about parallel and serial assignment, because this is set up with parallel assignment. So I didn't really care too much about the assignment. All I really cared was demonstrating it. But where this comes in useful is if I don't use parallel assignment. Now, by default in Process Director, if I assign multiple participants, and by the way, you can assign as many participants as you want. So if you assign by a group, you assign it to the finance group, and there's 10 people in the finance group, it will assign that task to all 10 people. And by default, all of their current tasks will run at the same time. Now, the thing about subtasks is I probably don't want them to run all at the same time. Now, I did it here for demo purposes, simply so that I could quickly demo it and we could quickly see what was happening. But in the real world, I probably don't want to use parallel assignment all the time. In the real world, I probably want to use all in series for this particular use case. Because what I've really got are 3 different tasks with 3 different task names and 3 different due dates. So I probably want to run them in a series so that subtask 1 has to be completed, then subtask 2, and then subtask 3. So at any given time, only one person is assigned a task. And only when the person assigned subtask 1 completes that task will subtask 2 be assigned to the next person in the series. Technically, what I could do is by assigning in a series, assigning multiple participants, each of which have their own subtask. Technically, I could build an entire approval loop into a single activity. Now, I'd have to be careful about that because if I'm going to do something like that, I really got to think about how I want results to work, right? So if I have an approve and reject, I'm probably going to want to, well, let's say this was, reject, right? And let's just add another one and we'll call it approve. I'm probably going to want to do, well, I should probably put them in the proper order. Approve first, then reject. Well, let's just call it deny. So I've got approve and deny, right? To approve, if I have it assigned to 3 people, well, let's just say 100%. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. How did reject get up at the top? What happened? I'm seeing I thought I saw reject or something. You know what? Let me close. Oh, I should probably put these in the right order too, right? Approve should be 1 and reject should be 2 because that's just how we do it here. Let me update. There we go. Now we can go back. I've got approve and I've got deny. So in a case like this, I've got 3 steps in an approval process. They're all going to happen inside. Each step is going to happen inside a subtask. Each one is going to happen one right after the other. Okay, to approve a request, what I'm probably going to want to do on the results is specify that 100% of the participants have to choose approve. On the other hand, if it gets denied, one participant who hits deny automatically denies the request. So if it goes to the first individual who has subtask 1 and they deny the request, we're done. This timeline has been completed. We're never going to get to user number 2 or user number 3. We are done. One participant chose this result. This request has now been denied. So we have to, if we're going to do something like this, we have to kind of monkey around with the results to be sure that we have 100% agreement that it's approved, but any one person who disagrees, it's denied. But other than that, technically, we could have this single activity 1 just be called approval, and I could have all 3 of my approval steps in this activity. It's certainly an efficient way of doing it. I'm not sure that I would do it that way. There may be some scenarios where this works inside like a particular group of people where I like, let's say IT approval, right? It's got to go through IT for approval. And I might have 3 people in IT and the people higher up in IT don't want to see it if somebody lower has denied it. So maybe for that particular approval activity, IT approval, I might set it up like this. I'm not sure I'd ever set up a complete approval loop in this way, but you could, and it'd work. I'm more of a fan of separating my approval assignments into separate activities. So I would probably prefer to have 3 different user activities rather than a single user activity that was assigned in parallel or assigned in sequence, with the results set up with those particular percentages or numbers. But you could certainly do that. That is a perfectly valid way of setting up an approval loop. So that would work. So now that we've started to get into, let me be sure I got there. Yeah, that doesn't need its own separate thing. I can do that from down here. So now let's get a little deeper into the approval or the participant advanced options, which we've just looked at a little bit in terms of talking about something being all in parallel or all in series. So I have a couple of different ways to assign users to the task. By default, all in parallel is the assignment, which if I assign it to multiple users, all of their tasks all run concurrently. I think that's probably, in most cases, the way that we want multiple user task assignments to run, but not always. So I have some other options. So I have all in series. So again, the same participants are assigned the task, but as we just saw, they get assigned them in series, and participant A has to complete before participant B can start on their task. However, there are 3 other options that are very useful. There's the round robin, fewest tasks in this process, and fewest tasks overall. What this allows us to do is to assign 10 users to a task. But when the task instance actually runs, it's actually just going to go through and select only one of those 10 users to perform the task in this instance. Obviously, round robin will just go through users 1 through 10, and when it goes through all 10 users, it'll just restart at user 1. So even though I've got 10 users assigned, each individual task instance that gets invoked will only grab one of those users. And this is probably the fairest way of doing it, by going to round robin. However, Process Director can look to see who has the fewest tasks in this particular process, just this specific process timeline, or to who has the fewest task assignments overall in their task list. So it will just assign to whoever either is your least busiest person in this process or just your least busiest person. So basically, it's a method of doing workload balancing. By every time the task gets assigned, it just looks for the person who has the fewest tasks and assigns the task to them. So there's a couple of cool ways of setting this up. Now, all in parallel has its own little wrinkle as well, because up here in the advanced options tab, there is assign task to first user to accept. Now, this runs a little bit differently. When the task starts, all of the participants in the task are notified that they have a task. And if they open up the form for that task, they will not see a task completion button. What they'll see is an accept task button. And the second that someone hits that accept task button, then the task assignments for all of the other users are satisfied and they go away. Let me show you what I mean. So this is assigned all in parallel, but we've checked the assign task first user to accept. Now, what we're going to do, I probably shouldn't have closed that. I should have gone back to the participants tab. So we are just going to add a couple of participants. So we're going to add, in my case, Barb and Diana. So Barb Actually, we can add them all here. There's Barb, there's Diana. Let's add Eric. Oh, heck, let's add Rick too. I don't need this third line here. So it's going to be assigned to the timeline initiator and then the following users, Eric, Diana, Barb, and Rick. They're all going to get assigned this task. Now, I don't have a form or anything associated with this, so we're just going to look at the timeline itself. So let me save and close the timeline, and let me run it. And now my timeline is run. Now, there's no form for this, so Process Director has this built-in fake form that is basically a task assignment notification. And notice here at the bottom it says accept task. We'll come back to that. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back to webinar here. Let's look at my active timelines, and let's look at the properties for this timeline instance. So we are running activity 1, and the following users are active. And the reason they're all active is that they've all got this assignment here with an accept task button. So I'm going to go ahead and accept the task. Great. Now the task is still running. I haven't completed it. That's the default result button if you haven't configured a result for your timeline activity, and I haven't. So great, I have a running task. I'm the task participant. Let's refresh this bad boy here. And we now see a little bit of a difference. Eric, Barb, Diana, and Rick are no longer required, and thus they are no longer running in the task. Their task has been completed. So if they were to open up that task notification, it would just say your task has been completed. You've probably sometimes seen that when you click an old task notification and it just opens up and it's just a blank page. It just says at the top of the page, you've completed your task, or your task has been completed, or whatever the verbiage happens to be. I don't remember it in detail off the top of my head, but you get that message, and that's what they'll get if they try to click on their assignment notification. So they open up their email an hour later and it says, oh, I've been assigned a task, and they click on it and they'll just say, nope, sorry, that task has been completed. You're no longer required in that task. And then they can go on about their day. Meanwhile, I have accepted the task, and this task is now assigned to me. So I have no choice but to go into the form because I said I'd do it and I would complete it. So what that particular configuration enables is for me to assign a whole bunch of people a task, but allow the people who are assigned the task to accept that task themselves. And so whoever accepts the task just takes it, and everybody else accepts the task later. Now, what happens if nobody decides to accept the task is an open question, but that task will remain in their task list until someone accepts it, and then that person will have to complete it. If nobody accepts the task and we're 5 days into this thing, maybe an escalation email to their supervisor might be in order so that they do the stuff that they're supposed to do. But in any event, that is how you can just have different sorts of task assignment, whether it's parallel or series or round robin, or even if it's parallel, the assignment, self-assignment of tasks or self-acceptance of tasks. Restarts get a little more tricky. There are a lot of things that count as a restart. So if I have a process timeline that is running in a loop and I go back to the top of the loop. So let's say one of my approval activities, I have a result that says, I need the initiator to resubmit this activity, or I need them to edit it. I need more information, whatever it is. So I select that result. And on the looping tab of the parent activity, I've said, if I select resubmit or more info or whatever it is, I need you to restart the loop. And presumably the first step in that loop will be the initiator's edits or resubmittal or whatever it is. But the loop has restarted, which means that approval activity number one, as soon as the initiator submits again, it's going to go back to approval activity number one, the one where I just restarted the loop, and that counts as a restart. Other things that count as a restart, if you go in and manually restart the loop as an administrator. For example, I not manually restart the loop. I click on a running activity, right click on it and say restart this activity. Okay, that counts as a restart as well. And those are the two most common types of restart. Also, if you have a branch activity and it does a rollback, that would count as a restart. I think even a start would count as a restart if you were jumping to a previous activity. I think even a jump would count. If you jumped to a already completed activity, that would count as a restart too. Those are far more rare. I think the most common type of restart is a restart in a looping segment on a process timeline. I think that's probably 90% of all restarts, probably 95. And then there's some small percentage of people going in, maybe 1 or 2% of administrators, right clicking on a timeline activity instance and selecting restart. But that restart is a restart. Process Director knows how many times that activity is run. And it counts and it iterates through how many times that activity is run. In fact, there's a system variable, don't remember it off the top of my head, but there's a system variable that will return to you the number of iterations that an activity has been through if you want it. Okay. Now, in most cases, the restart user setting doesn't matter, right? Because the activity started yesterday, somebody looked at something, said, no, I don't like it. Resubmit. It goes back to the initiator. He looks at it for an hour or so, makes a couple of changes, resubmits it. It now comes back to me. I have restarted my activity that I hit resubmit on an hour ago. Now it's an hour later and it's back to me. We don't really care what happens when that activity restarts because I just finished it an hour ago and now I've got it back on my plate again an hour later. Probably not much has changed in the world in that last hour, but not all timelines work like that. We have some customers that have timelines that take 2 years to complete. Got all of these government regulations they have to comply with and all these approvals from government agencies, and this stuff just takes time. And so from start to finish, it could go anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. Well, now a lot can happen in 18 months to 2 years. People are going to leave the organization, new people come in. You're probably going to have to go in and change this process timeline in one way or another as things change. So now it becomes really important in an environment like that to know what we're going to do on a restart. Now, by default, when an activity restarts, we're just going to take a look at whoever is configured in that activity, and we're going to restart them. So if Bob did it 3 weeks ago, but we've changed the process timeline and that activity restarts and we changed it from, Bob to Diana. Well, when that activity restarts, Diana, now being the configured participant, is going to be the one that does this activity. Now, look, this is a good choice. It's a good default choice because I think for the most part, this is kind of how we want restarts to work. But not always. Because again, if you're doing things in parallel, you might have 5 people assigned to a task, right? And it has gone through 3 of the 5 people. And then the third person says, okay, there's a problem with this. We're going to have to reset. We're going to have to resubmit this. And they're going to send it back. And presumably it's going to take weeks or months for the whatever the reset is, and then it's going to come back. All right. Well, a lot can have happened. So, do we want to go back and have all the people who previously ran the task, as well as whoever is currently configured? Do we want to go back and have those three original people review the same task over again? Now, if I have changed the last two people in the task, then obviously two new people will see it, but I still want the original three who saw it the first time to review it. They might not even be configured in this task anymore. And if so, then as long as they're still with the organization, they're still going to get assigned the task, because I want the previous people to review it, because they're the ones who saw it the first time. And they're the ones who, went through it and reviewed it. They're the most familiar with it. And they know why ultimately it got rejected. So I want to run it back to those people. I might want to start only the users that previously completed. All right, let's say I have it assigned to 5 people. That doesn't matter whether it's in parallel or not. Right, and I had 5 people and 2 of them said, I want to resubmit. Okay, well, 3 of them said it was fine. But as soon as the 2 people said, I want to resubmit, we got a resubmit going. Okay, do I need to show after it gets resubmitted? Do I need to show the 3 people who approved it? Do I need to have them look at it again? Or do I only want the people who rejected it to look at it again? Well, if that's all I want, then I would only want to start the users that previously completed the task. On the other hand, once again, the scenario is I have 5 users. Users 1 and 2 approved it. User 3 resubmitted it. All right, when it comes back, do I want users 1 and 2 to see it again? Or do I want to complete all 3 or all 5 users, but 2 users have already completed it? They were fine, so I can ignore them. I can actually go back to the last completed user, the guy who sent it back, and he gets to see it again. And then when he completes, he was user number 3. It would then go to user number 4 and user number 5, and then they would have their ability to review the task for the first time and do whatever it was that they wanted to do with it. If user 4 decided to resubmit it, then with the start from last completed user, it would get resubmitted. It would come back to my approval task. Users 1, 2, and 3 have all completed it successfully. Don't need to worry about them. It'll just get assigned to user 4. And if he accepts it, then it will move on to user 5. And again, we're assuming that in that particular instance, we're running it in sequence. Or do we just want to start the users that did not complete previously? So again, same scenario, users 1, 2, and 3 saw it. User 3 kicked it back. Change was made. Task was restarted. 1, 2, and 3 have already completed. So we're just not going to show it to them. We're going to go straight to users 4 and 5. They'll be the only ones that see it on the restart. So while the start only configured task participants is probably great in 95% of use cases, there are some use cases, especially for long-running processes, where you do need to think very seriously what happens if a long period of time has elapsed and I've made changes to my process timeline. How do I want my restarts to work? You now know what all 5 of your possible options are in terms of how you want the restart to work. And by the way, in the example that I've given, it may not even, it may be a 1 hour turnaround on the rewrite. When you get to the last 3 options, show only users that previously completed, start from last completed, and start from users that did not complete. I mean, these are valid restart options, even on things that have quick turnarounds, because now you're discussing, of the 5 people who are assigned, do all 5 need to see it this time? Or does it just need to start from whoever the last one was? Or do we just, everybody who has already seen it, we don't have to see it again? So these last three options are actually useful in a number of scenarios in terms of how you want task restarts to work. And again, we're thinking in terms of normally looping in a process timeline. But there is one little bit of trickery on the Advanced Options tab, and that is the Restart All Users When activity. Generally, we think of the restart in terms of a loop. And so if we're just going to restart the loop, we know that that's a restart. And we have conditions for restarting the loop. But I can also have a condition just to restart a specific activity with this Restart All Users When. And of course, it's obviously a condition builder link. We can open up the condition builder. We can build a condition that will be evaluated regularly to determine whether I need to restart all users. And this would happen irrespective of any other looping or anything else that might go on. We might restart all users whenever the due date is reached, or we might restart all users on, when some change to some external data occurs that we're evaluating via a goal or a business value. So we have a lot of different options for restart. Other than just looping or manual restarts, we can actually force a restart, some sort of condition-based restart, to restart all of the users in this task when any evaluable condition is met. So restart can be important depending on how you want your restarts to work. And with that, there is one other setting. We don't use it often, but it's this right here. Reauthenticate users. Now, this will be the last thing we cover. Sometimes, for security reasons, whether they're logged in or not, what you want to do is force a user to log in to reauthenticate. So let's say somebody has their computer open. You don't want somebody to come to their desk and surreptitiously get to that task. You're going to want to reauthenticate them before they can complete that task. So it will force them to re-log into the system. So even if their computer is open and process director is open and someone comes in and tries to, perform that task assignment, or someone, intercepts the mail somehow, or you send a copy of their mail somewhere, that's fine. By setting up reauthenticate users, they can't complete their task until they perform a reauthentication on the system. Once they are reauthenticated in the system, then they can go ahead and complete their task. That's just a little security tweak that we have added to the system. Well, thanks for joining me again today. We have once again used practically our full allotment of time. So it's time for me to shut up and time for all of you to go back to work. So have a great week. I won't see you next week, so have a great 2 weeks. We'll see you when we get back 2 weeks from now. So long.